Today on Locked On Red Wings, what's behind the Grand Rapids Griffins' hot start? We have Andrew Rinaldi of the Calder Times with us to help us break it down.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's is over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News, while I am the color commentator for Oakland University, ACHA D1 Men's Hockey. And today we are joined by our most frequent returning guest.
Pretty
Andrew
comfortably,
Rinaldi.
I feel like.
By a large margin, for
Yeah.
sure. I think last year down the final stretch when the Griffins were playing really well, clinched a playoff spot, we were having him on about once a month to keep us abreast about how those Griffins are doing. And hey, they're starting hot again, so we're probably going to continue that trend here. So Andrew, welcome. How you doing today, man?
Doing great, guys. Thanks again for having me on.
Of course. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. And it's going to be a pretty straightforward episode for you guys. I mean, Red Wings, they suck, but the Griffins, they absolutely do not suck. They're in first place in their division, 11-3-1 in 15 games, 4-point lead on the division. Now, granted, they have played 2 more games than the team trailing them, the Milwaukee Admirals, but they did recently beat the Admirals as well. Andrew, I mean, just to answer the question that I opened the show with, in your opinion, what is behind the Griffins' success so early in the season?
It's an absolute all-hands-on-deck approach. It's really kind of the best way that I can put it. I mean, when you lose, Marco Kasper gets called up, 2 games into the season. Carter Mazur goes down with an injury 3 games in. William Wallinder's been out for a couple of weeks now, and this team just keeps winning hockey games. It's guys are stepping up all up and down the lineup. They obviously, have been having some really strong goaltending, which helps. And it's been a continuation off of the success of the end of last year where it started out for the Griffins. Those first couple of months were really tough, and then they turned it around Christmas time and shot up to the top of the standings. Now that they've had that established culture and established identity, they were able to just kind of hit the ground running heading into this season. And, they've just been piling the wins up, and against some really good teams too, going into Milwaukee, battle for first place in the division, go in there and win in their barn. It was a real gut check early on in this season. So, they've proven that they can do it before, and here they are doing it again.
Well, I mean, the Griffins have had to deal with a lot of the ramifications of the Wings too, in the sense that you guys got did anyone expect Husso to be down there for a majority of time, right? That certainly was a little bit of a wrench in there. And then there's been emergency call-ups and send downs and whatnot. We obviously talked over the summer just about kind of what to expect from the players on the Griffins this year. Who do you think so far this season is, I guess I'll say X factor? I'm not trying to be too dramatic about it, but just who has really stood out to you the most so far with this hot stretch?
Amadeus Lombardi.
Yeah.
He showed a lot of good flashes last year, but kind of wasn't putting it all together with so much consistency. And now you see him just with confidence, just flying up and down the ice, making plays at both ends, and really just kind of being a driving force for this team offensively. Whereas last year he was, I don't want to use the word afterthought, but there were other guys, Berggren, who were, leaned on more for those offensive numbers. And with Kasper and Mazur out, he's been the straw that stirs the drink. And it's been watching him kind of, I'd say, glow up from last year. I'm not a fan of the haircut. I wish he kind of would have rocked the longer hair look a little longer. But, if the short hair works for him, then keep it going. That's all I can say.
And this is a player too. I'm so excited to see succeed because obviously everybody knew about his success coming out of the OHL with the Flint Firebirds. 102 points in 67 games played his final year in the O, and we knew. We were joking about it. We were hyping him up because that's a crazy production. We knew he was a smaller forward and he was playing in, the OHL, and it's a huge leap between that and professional hockey. So we knew, might be an adjustment and it might not come because he was a 4th-round pick. But the fact that he was signed to that ELC immediately meant that the team believed in that skill set of his. And after that first year in the Griffins, I was like, maybe the translation wasn't there. But now he's adjusted to the professional hockey. He's on pace for close to 30 goals right now because, I love the pro rate, Scotty. I mean, watching this 5'10", that's what he's listed as elite prospect, so he's probably 5'8" in reality, for just zip around the ice with all that speed and hands and vision. I'm just I just love me a small forward who can score. I just love it.
So do the Wings, so.
Evidently. The next guy too, Nate Danielson, I think that's the natural transition here, 9th overall pick just a couple years ago. He came into the Griffins during the postseason, right? Got into a couple games. They were asking him to make a huge leap from the WHL to the AHL playoffs to be an impactful player. So after 2 games, I think it was, Andrew, he stopped, playing. He was a healthy scratch, which I agreed with. I was like, you threw him into the fire. So far, he's really heating up in the last few games. I think he's he tied for? He's quickly climbing the points. He's got 8 points in 15 games now, 2 goals and 6 assists. What have you seen from him?
It's his confidence again, kind of with Lombardi, in the same vein, but those first few games, you felt like he was still kind of adjusting to the pace and looking for, just kind of the right spots to be on the ice. And now that he's okay, you kind of start seeing the wheels turning, he's the pucks just kind of naturally coming to him. And again, he just has that he's got that dog in him, I've said that about Mazur in the past, and I'll say it about this kid too. Danielson has really been getting stronger on both on and off the puck as the games go on. And it reminds me a lot of Casper last year. Casper started off really kind of tough along with the rest of the team, but as the games got over, he gets settled in, gets more comfortable, gets better and better. And you're seeing Nate. He wasn't kind of making these confident plays with, just the handles, he's had a couple of real sick setups, and in times past where I feel like he'd be thinking too much about it and then just lose the puck. Now he's making those plays with confidence, and you're seeing the results kind of pile up on the scoreboard there. And I've seen him, get in the face of his opponents. I know he had a fight, I think the second game of the season. So he's not taking it from anyone either. And that's, again, kind of that dog mentality that I know that Coach Watson loves to see. And that's what, kind of makes this team identity and where they are at in the standings.
He was so fun to watch in the preseason as well, right? He was somebody that I think a lot of the fan base in the preseason was like, oh wow, he is really good and may even make a push for the roster, which was always kind of a stretch for sure. But I don't know, maybe this is too big picture, but is there a world where if the Wings season really goes downhill quickly that they kind of look and go, hey, this kid's pretty close to ready and we can give him minutes because season is a disaster, so we're going to move him up mid-year?
It depends on the level of disaster, I'm going to say. I think they're insulated pretty well enough at center where maybe that, kind of like with Casper last year, 20-year-old kid will just kind of keep him playing those top minutes in Grand Rapids versus maybe he gets a couple games at the end of the season. Let's see what you got. But I feel like long term, even short term, it's better off for this kid to be playing, those top power play, penalty kill minutes in Grand Rapids, really kind of build up those details of his game that are making him a real successful player. Then hopefully then you'll see again, it's very much a mirror with Casper. There's very similar players, very similar skill sets, and Casper's a year older. So you're going to see kind of like, okay, we've seen this game plan work for Marco. Now we're going to, why fix what ain't broke? So we'll just kind of keep Nate rolling along with the same plan.
Gotcha. We're going to head to a quick break. When we return, I actually have a question for Scotty. So stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. It's called a tease. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. They are the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get that $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play that $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time, and Game Time has Game Time Picks, and that allows you to filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With curation, it makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. And the all-in pricing toggle allows you to show the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout when you turn that toggle on. The Game Time ticket coverage allows you to have the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Scotty, segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Real quick, 1 minute. This is old school Locked On short stuff right here. What are your thoughts on AJ Hinch getting robbed of Manager of the Year and it going to Stephen Vogt of the Cleveland Guardians?
Man, you can watch the Locked On Tigers and we can talk about it. This was always going to happen. It was always going to be Vogt. It was never going to be Hinch. I think Hinch deserves it, but he was never going to win it. Like, I don't know. I can talk about it more in depth on my own show, but this was always going to be the result.
I don't believe you. I think you're a liar. I think AJ Hinch got robbed, and you can't convince me otherwise. Andrew, Sebastian Cossa has been absolutely electric thus far this season. His numbers reflect that as well. He's got a .937 save percentage. His goals against average is under 2. You know, how much of his performance this year is just his development taking another step forward, and how much of this is like the team just playing really good defense in front of him?
It's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. You know, of course it's easier to look better when your team's playing better, but you know, at the same time, you can look over in Iowa where his fellow first round pick from 2021, Jesper Wallstedt, is having a terrible season, or at least beginning to the season. And, you know, to be fair to Jesper, Iowa is kind of terrible all top to bottom on their roster. And so, you know, it's always hard to judge. But then when you tune into these games and you've seen a pattern from top to bottom of actually Grand Rapids kind of like their parent team getting outshot in a lot of these games, and Cossa having to kind of bail the boys out when things aren't going quite exactly to plan. And he's just Mr. Consistent in that crease. He really has not had like a game where I can go, oh, wow, he's really just not feeling it tonight. Like he seems dialed in. He seems just cool, calm, confident. Like he can't really get rattled. I've seen this guy just get absolutely run over and brush it off like it's absolutely nothing and just keep on stopping pucks. And whether, you know, there's traffic in front, kind of going left to right, he's there. And he's, like I said, he's consistent. So it's certainly when you have that presence in net, it makes you play so much more confidently in front of them. So, you know, Is it better having a defense like that kind of help clearing it out? Yes, but getting the defense play better because they know they have him back there? Absolutely. So it's a little bit of give and take.
So the question then becomes, do you think this is the last year he spends in the AHL?
Oh man, well now I'm leaning on just thinking about like what's going on in the big club and all that. I'll kind of reserve long-term judgment. I mean, we got a whole lot of season going on here, playoffs and all that. I think that it's coming pretty close. I mean, this year he might, again, it's all the state of the Wings. Do they want to bring him up for a couple games at the end of the year, kind of see what we got going on? I mean, there's so many goalies under contract, you kind of got to shuffle the cards a little bit there, but
a lot of those are expiring deals though.
That's true. So
only one of those contracts is
Brian's
next
just
year.
so annoying. Look at him. The whole time he's just been like, like God.
I think he definitely becomes a bigger part of the picture next year, but I think Dan Watson said the plan was to get him 50, maybe 60 games of the season in Grand Rapids this year. So I think they're going to try and stick to that as much as they can. With the dynamics, I think shifting maybe a little bit with Husso, and now we got Campbell coming in. So, but I still think, the main priority is, get the big man as much playing time as they possibly can down here. And then they'll go from there probably next year.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something we wanted to talk about, was the crowded goalie room, but also that's something that Brian and I talked about on this show, and I voiced my concerns of like Husso getting sent down and taking away valuable playing time from Cossa, and like I didn't want him to, like, that just felt really pointless to me. And I'm wondering, just how Husso has looked. Obviously, we can all see his numbers, and it's been pretty a lot better down there than it was up here. But I also want to know after that, I guess, two-parter, how they have managed the juggling of the goalie room, and then now with Campbell being thrown into the mix, how that could change that dynamic even more.
Absolutely. And, Husso, when he's been out there, he's honestly, he's looked great. And I think the biggest takeaway for him is just, he's been keeping a positive attitude. And I think he's kept it all in perspective. It's so easy for guys to, you've been up in the show for a couple of years, get placed on waivers. No one claims you. Now you're down in the American League. And it's really easy to kind of pile up and like, okay, well, that's it. And it's so to keep the right mindset, stay positive about it, and just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna go to work and stop the puck. And I've liked what I've seen from that, and especially considering the goaltending position being so much about what's going on between your ears, when you have a good grasp of the mental side of things like that. I think there's still good things, whether it's here in Detroit or whatever for Ville, but he's got the right frame of mind. Now, with Jack Campbell coming in, it's how they're going to manage that whole circus. I mean, you got me, man. I really I wish I had a better answer for you. I really honestly do, but you got just, three guys who are super capable at this level. And I think, the plan is still to, give Cossa the reins. It's his show. Let him keep doing it. And how they're going to platoon that backup spot is above my pay grade. That's the best way I can say it. But it's as good a guess as anyone's. Maybe they tried the 3 goalie tango up in Detroit a little more. I don't know how that's going to work either, but we'll see. Maybe it's
that
just
was my thought.
Yeah,
my thought was Husso comes back to Detroit, but I'm in the same boat as you, man. I have no clue.
Yeah. I mean, it comes back down to, like, why did you sign an extra goalie this offseason to begin with? especially because then you also made that trade, right? Gage Alexander, you got back, and he's is he with the Walleye right now? I'd have to double check exactly where Gage is. So it's like you really stocked up on goaltenders where you already had a crowded room. Like, I feel like the only solution is now, not the only solution, I shouldn't say it so definitively, but the easiest solution is just to trade like Jack Campbell away and not trying to like just get him out of here. I know he's from Port Huron. He probably wants to be in Detroit or Grand Rapids, but like your focus should be on developing Cossa. And like you don't want 3 NHL capable goaltenders, not necessarily they're all starters, but Campbell has had a ton of time in the NHL. So has Ville Husso. You don't want those guys in the AHL, to Scotty's point, chipping away at those minutes of Cossa, but they also just need to get minutes to stay sharp. So it's like it was like the Olimata situation. You find a team that needs a goalie and you trade them away to it for. I mean, you got a third out of Olimata, so I don't expect nearly as much out of an AHL goaltender. But you might get my point that it just feels like the easiest solution is to take advantage of the crowded room and take advantage of a team lacking depth.
Mm-hmm.
So. We'll take another quick break. When we return, we'll finish up our conversation on the Griffins. So stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 on 150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, no worries. There's not going to be any surprise questions here at the start of segment 3 for you. Unless Tarek Skubal wins the Cy Young while we're talking, and then maybe.
That is not today, no. I know when that is announced.
I do not. So listen to Locked On Tigers for accurate information. Scotty, Andrew, I want to talk about Shai Buam because he was a guy, second-round pick from the Detroit Red Wings a couple of years back. I can't remember exactly the year. But he, coming out of Denver, looked like a solid, big-bodied defenseman. How's he looked now that he's made the transition to pro hockey?
I've really liked his game down there. I think that, first couple of games, it's, again, I feel like it's kind of a theme. I'm talking about these guys where they're just getting in and they got a bit of the jitters. And I saw Bouillon with a couple of turnovers that didn't look so great. But again, it's a guy, especially on defense, getting his feet wet against some of, these are all, when you think about the competition he's going up against every night, these are either, other top level prospects or guys that are just on the cusp of an NHL job, working their butts off to try and make a name for themselves. So it's going to be a challenge night in and night out to get that kind of consistency from these young guys. And again, as the season's been going on, as you get a guy like Wallinder who's been out of the lineup since before Halloween, it forces them to lean on guys like Bouillon more often. And I think he's really risen up and has shown a lot of poise in his own end, and you see him more confident with the puck as a result. It's all a process for these guys, but I've come to really enjoy what he's been bringing to this blue line early on here.
So I'm really glad that Brian asked that, actually, because my question was about the blue line as a whole. Like this is a two big factors here. One is just like all the media and attention is to the forwards because there's a lot of the Wings' top prospects are forwards and up the middle and whatnot. So that makes sense. And the team's been really good. So the people that score are going to get all the limelight, right? But this was a blue line that lost probably its 2 best defenders last year when they made the playoffs. And they have been the team, as we're talking about this whole time, has been phenomenal despite losing Edvinsson and Aljo. So like, what has the feel for the blue line been? Who has stood out to you? How are they working so well? Just kind of talk about the defensive unit as a whole.
I'd say it's kind of the two of the biggest factors that have been on defense are not prospects, but Josiah Didier, the captain, who is just as anchor as you can get in the AHL, and then William Lagesson, who, you know, we kind of had that call up and then subsequent sent down when we were about Edvinsson, but you know, those are guys that have been at this level around the block, and when you have guys like Bouillon and Wallinder and Vero kind of, you know, learning the ranks, these are the guys that you're going to kind of lean on who are really going to show you the way. And it's for the whole reason of this league, as we kind of think, is the development of prospects and the pipeline to the NHL. Well, these are guys who, you know, is Josiah Didier going to make the Red Wings anytime? Probably not, but you know, he's instrumental and getting these guys to learn those habits and learn what it takes to, you know, win at not just at this level, but then moving up at the next level. So I think they've been huge in kind of showing the ropes for these guys, and which also leans on that, you know, you can lose in Edvinsson, a Johansson to call up, and this unit just doesn't miss a beat. And credit to Brian Lashoff, man. This is his blue line that he's been coaching now for his second year. And you know, the guy's been known as Mr. Griffin. He's going to be in the city for a long time, I feel like. And, you know, results like this is just testament to what he brings to the table.
Absolutely. I do want to ask you a non-player related question. It's on the show sheet. You can probably see it. You know, when they revealed those new uniforms, I was really high on them. But the lighting wasn't great in the images, so it was really hard to make a final verdict. And from all the images I can tell, I think they look great. But I want to know, as somebody who has seen them in person, you obviously, how do they look in action?
I've seen the home whites for now, and so like the AHL does it weird. Like the first half of the season, the home team wears white, and then the second half of the season, they do it like NHL where they wear the team colors.
Did not know that.
Yep. So it's been the white for me early on, and I think they look great. I know that's gonna annoy Tyler Kuhl over there because he's not the biggest fan of the jerseys, but I've heard that the darks really pop, and the you know, the gold trim and all that.
Yeah, man.
So after the All-Star break, we'll have to see what that looks like. But I'm a fan. I love the gold branding on it. It's it's just like I said, it pops a little more than the old one where it's just kind of like, you know, blue and red and kind of that was it. It felt a little flat. And I think this one gives it a little more character. So it feels fresh, and we like fresh.
I like them, man. Like you said, the gold trim, that's the thing Brian and I were talking about when they first dropped them. I think that's the coolest part.
Yeah.
Scotty, anything else for Andrew?
No, I guess not. AHL All-Stars, you mentioned it. Do we have any?
Well, everyone sends one. I'm not the biggest fan of that rule. I've said that about the NHL.
How baseball does it too. Yeah,
you got to earn it in my book. But I'm gonna throw it out to Dominic Shine. I've pumped his tires before on this pod, and he's leading the team in points. I never thought I would have said that about Shiner a couple of years ago, and here we are. I mean, talk about a guy who just does anything that's asked of him. You know, he's been a fourth line grinder. Now you see him piling up the points, and you know, he does it all. He's soft spoken. He's just a consummate guy. The best line I've ever heard about any coach speaking about a player is Ben Simon saying he would climb into a foxhole with Dom Shine any day of the week. And so seeing him being rewarded on the score sheet now with what's sure to be a career year offensively for him, I think he's earned the right to head to Palm Springs in Coachella Valley of all places for the All-Star game. I'm thinking about hitting that up myself.
Yeah, man, get some credentials. Get some credentials for that one, baby.
It looks like so he had a career high in the AHL points last year, 33, breaking his previous career high of 32. Right now, he's already at a third of that. So I think he's sitting pretty to not just break that, but kind of break through it by a large margin. So, Andrew, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us about the Griffins. It was nice to have some positive hockey content to talk about. Let people know where they can find your work, dude.
Absolutely. So as you guys said, I write for the Calder Times. We cover all things American Hockey League there, from the Pacific to the Atlantic. So it's a fun league. I love covering it, and it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm also active on Twitter for those who can't see my handle down here, it's at @GR_Rinaldi, one more underscore. And I, give updates on the team. I live tweet during the games. I make memes where they're applicable, and it's generally fun. I enjoy just having fun with the fans, chatting about hockey. Yeah, it's been great. We've all been there. So, if anyone's got any questions about some young players or anything about the team, I'm always happy to answer them.
Awesome. Again, Andrew, really appreciate your time. I'm sure we'll have you on again very soon as the Griffins continue throughout their season, especially if they continue to crush it, and even more, especially if the Wings continue to underperform. We'll need to fill content with something that's not so dreadful. So, Scotty, any final thoughts?
I don't think so, man. We ball.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.